You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Hello and welcome to the Living Full Out Show. My name is Nancy Solari, and today we're going to be talking about doubting your decisions. And we've all been there, right? We have to make a decision and we're concerned that what if we choose the wrong one? Well, we want to kind of put that fear aside and just take a leap of faith sometimes and just put ourselves out there and do our best. So we're going to be talking about that and taking your calls. Again, that number is 800-333-0001. Then coming up in our next segment, we're going to be joined by Chad Judice. Now, his story is very touching because his son Eli was born with spina bifida, which is an amazing condition. It's a birth defect that has a hole in the spine. And he's going to share with us how his son Eli is doing today and how it really tested his faith, but helped him become a stronger man and husband and father. So stay with us there. Also, if you have a story that you would like to share with our community that would motivate us all, we'd like to hear from you. Just go ahead and reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com. And we want to also make sure that if you need resources on today's topic or coaching, you're not alone. We're right there beside you. Just reach out to us at connect@livingfullout.com, and we'll make sure that you get what you need there. And if you want to hear today's show again, feel free to go to livingfullout.com. Go to the radio show tab. All of our episodes will be waiting there for you. Also, if you have Alexa in your house, you can listen to us there by just searching Living Full Out Radio Show. Or you can go to your app store if you have an iPhone or Android. And again, just search Living Full Out Radio and you can listen to us on the go. But as we talk today about doubting decisions, it's just really important to isolate what is that challenge, what is it that you're trying to face and get over in terms of a hurdle or an obstacle. Rather than making it a big issue, you want to try to simplify it and analyze and process and then ultimately execute by making a decision rather than being stuck in fear. Now, I'm getting word from our producer that we have a caller on the line. We're going to go say hello to them. Hi, welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hi,
thank you for calling. How can we help you today?
I am currently a freshman at the University of Georgia, and I'm a dance major. So I'm currently taking a lot of intense dance classes, and I have a ton of hard, long rehearsals in addition to events with my sorority and other clubs I'm involved in. How would you recommend that I manage my time to maximize it and help me cope with the stress of being involved in all these various activities?
Wow. Well, first of all, good for you. I've always admired dancers, the flexibility, the way that you guys can just like fly through the air and twirl with, excitement and entertaining value. I love that. So kudos to you there. It's a great talent. Now, here's the thing. You're a doer, right? And you're a great example of what it means to live full out. You're taking a bite of that apple with all your might, right? But at the same time, you have to make sure that you pace yourself. You don't want to burn out, right? So you're a freshman. You've taken all this on. We got 4 years ahead of you, maybe 5. Sometimes people are lucky with 3. But, you got to pace yourself and make sure that along the way, you don't miss moments. Because if you really look at the dancing, right, and the people that you work with there, there's going to be moments of tears and moments of frustration and moments of, a competitive side, and you want to really let all of that wash over you and take each moment and figure out how you can apply it to your life and evolve and become better as a professional, as a person. And then same with your sorority, that bonding time or school. And so my concern is, what do you do to keep yourself in check? How do you currently balance your schedule?
Well, I think that being in a sorority along with being a dance major kind of helps me get away from the major, and I can expand my social circle other than just being in the dance department, and I'm not just stuck there all day. But it is stressful at times because sometimes I feel like I can't make that balance and be with my sorority and be a dance major at the same time. Sometimes there's weeks where it's very unbalanced. I never see any of my sisters, and I'm always in the dance building. And it does take a physical toll on me.
Yeah, and when that stress happens, do you feel more like you're letting other people down, or is it the pain of you're missing out on it?
Definitely both. I feel like I am definitely the type of person that I feel like I have to make everybody happy, and I'm always trying to please everybody, which I know is nobody's perfect, and I know that I can't please everybody, but it is very frustrating when I feel like I can't do that.
So with those two pains that we just talked about, here's what I want you to consider, okay? When you're considering the times where you feel like you're letting people down, it's true. A people pleaser wants to be everywhere all the time, and you just can't. But what you can do is send people a text, send them an email, leave them a voicemail, call them, and just let them know, hey, I'm thinking of you. I'm there in spirit. Anything I can do, in advance, maybe the day before, or do you need help afterwards? So yes, you're not there for the actual event or the actual moment, but you're willing to just be there before and after, or you're thinking of them. That's how you take away that pain, because now they get that you're with them, right? That they're the support. Now, the other one, though, where you're feeling like you're missing out, that's a little bit bigger one. You want to think about a schedule, whether it be a weekly schedule, a monthly schedule, and just make sure that you hit the big moments, the ones that mean the most to you. But again, you can't be everywhere at all times. But if you do that, you will have more balance in your day and in your life. And again, I support you going after life in a big way. Rah, 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 right? But at the same time, remember to slow down and take a breath. Okay? Yeah. And on days that you're super, super busy and the stress is at level 10, just give yourself permission to cry. Give yourself permission to take a nap. Give yourself the ability to let the emotions flow through, because emotions stand for energy in motion. So if you're trying to pretend and block that energy from processing, then you're not allowing yourself to have the full experience. Does that make sense?
Right. It does. Cool. And a lot of the times my parents will tell me that I need to take time for myself and that self-care always comes first. And I know that as a people pleaser, it's very hard to, take time for yourself instead of trying to go out and please either my sorority or my dance friends. It's just, I need to come back sometimes and take care of myself.
Absolutely. There's a lot of power in just being in the moment. And there's also equally a lot of power in being silent, not having to be the one that answers all the questions, doing it all. Sometimes just being and being a listener and being still. It's something that's learned over time. But if you can master that, you can do it all. So thank you so much for calling in, and we'll be wishing you all the best.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And I love that she called in about that topic, right? Think about all the decisions that she has to make in her day. Do I do this? Do I do that? Am I going to be late? Am I letting them down? That's a lot of doubting. That's a lot in the mind. So what we want to consider is in our own lives. Think about all the commitments that you have to do. Then think of the things that you've said yes to, but you said yes because you didn't want to let people down. Overall, that's going to layer on top of each other, and it's going to cause further anxiety. So you want to think about, over the next week, what have you said yes to that you can take off your plate? Maybe defer it to another week. Maybe see if someone else can assist that person rather than you. Now, if they are things that you absolutely want to do and you're passionate and committed about them, then go for it. But it's all about finding that balance. And I encourage all of you actually to go to livingfullout.com, because we have on there 80 different tips for how you can bring balance into your life. So I want to make sure that everybody listening goes and grabs that. It's free. So it's there for you to apply to your life and be able to bring in harmony and not be so stressed out. But I'm right there with you and everybody listening today, because it is hard to let things go and not feel like we have to do it all. But again, it's important to pace yourself, not burn out, and rather than doubting your decisions, just step out there and make the decision. If you make a mistake, so be it. You'll do better next time. And if you don't, then you might just win really big. But if you don't try, you won't know. So we're going to be coming right back with our inspirational guest, Chad Judice. Stay with us. I am Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. And we'll be coming right back. It's all about doubting our decisions and how we can get out of our own way, stop the self-sabotage, claim our life, stand up, be powerful, and live our lives full out in the way that it was designed to be. We'll be right back after this break.
Dad, this is fun. I didn't think I liked kayaking.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, but I think it's time to head back in.
Okay. Can we come back?
Sure.
Tomorrow?
Let's check with Mom. Hey, be careful getting out of the boat.
It's a kayak, Dad.
I'm gonna return the kayak. Just make sure you have everything.
Yep. Can we walk home?
How about a taxi? 233 North Maple, please.
It's a short fare from your neighborhood to your naturehood. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a neighborhood park or green space near you. Also, find fun activities to do like boating and biking or camping and hiking, plus much more. It's all right in your naturehood.
Best day ever.
A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council and the U.S. Forest Service.
Don't you wish that getting your child to eat right, move more, and spend less time in front of a screen could be as easy as pushing a button? It might not be that simple, but you do have more power than you know. And you can maximize that power with proven strategies, tips, and tools from the National Institutes of Health's We Can, or Ways to Enhance Children's Activity and Nutrition program. We Can offers all kinds of resources, including fun recipes and activities the family can do together to show you the way to live a healthier lifestyle. We're not saying it's easy. We are saying that it can be done. Take the first step today. Call 1-866-359-3226 for a free We Can Parents Handbook. And be sure to visit the We Can website at wecan.nhlbi.nih.gov for free information too. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Today, my new dad and I shot off a rocket in the park.
Today, my new son and I failed to shoot off a rocket.
He knew exactly what to do.
I had no clue what I was doing.
We set up the rocket.
Hit ignition.
And then
nothing. Ha 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 ha. Sometimes I laugh when I'm frustrated.
Then out of nowhere, the rocket launched into the air.
The rocket did get into the air.
I've never seen anything fly so high.
And then crashed into a kite.
Look out! Look out!
And then the pond.
I'll never forget that day.
I'll never forget that day, even if I tried.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are. For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I liked things to always be the same. Anything new or different would scare and upset me. I was very sensitive to lights and sounds. It was almost like I had bigger eyes and ears than everyone else. So I built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. I didn't like looking people in the eye. It made me feel uncomfortable. I'd throw big tantrums over little things like when my socks didn't match. Sometimes I'd do the same things over and over. Until one day, I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
You can see signs of autism in children as young as 18 months. Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. With Nancy's expertise, you'll learn how to embrace your potential and strive for success. If you have a question or need further support, send us an email at connect@livingfullout.com. Now, here's Nancy.
And today we are going to be talking about doubting our decisions. And when we're in a place where we're doubting our decisions, how do we get out of that? How do we find the answers and be able to step forward confidently? Now, our inspirational guest for today, Chad Judice, is a perfect example of someone who had to face a hard decision. And he had to hold on to his faith and the support of family and friends to feel confident to take that leap. So I'd like to welcome Chad to the show.
Hi, Nancy. How you doing?
Hi, I'm wonderful. Thank you. Now, I didn't want to give your story away because I think it's one to really be told as we unfold it. So we all have a lot of fears in life, right? Fear of heights, fear of planes, fear of public speaking. But you had a fear early on that a student asked you about. What was that fear?
A student asked me what my greatest fear was, and I told him my greatest fear would be to have a child with a mental or physical handicap. Because I was such a perfectionist, I didn't think I'd handle that very well. Having no idea that in 4 short years, that greatest fear would become my reality.
And that's scary to think that in your case, it did, and for any of us, it could. Now, let's go forward 4 years after that conversation. You and your wife were pregnant with your second child. All seemed good until the day that you were looking at an ultrasound. And everybody was pretty much silent. Mum's the word. Yeah.
Yes. We were somewhere between 16 to 20 weeks of pregnancy. And usually that's a happy time for the couple where you go and you can see in the ultrasound all the baby's organs and you can hear its heart beating. And if you want, you can find out whether or not it's a boy or a girl. We did have a healthy 3-year-old son at home. We had no complications in our first pregnancy, so we didn't think that day would be any different than the first time. And I remember my wife walking into the ultrasound room and telling the techs that she wanted to know whether or not it was healthy, and what it was until they could tell us it was healthy. And since my wife's an RN, she's a neonatal intensive care unit nurse, she was kind of taken back when the tech had a concerned look on her face immediately after starting the ultrasound. And I kind of asked what was wrong, and she said, I'm having trouble locating a few things. And she quietly got up and walked out of the room. And then moments later, a second tech came in, and when she began taking the ultrasound, that same concerned look was on her face, and it was back on my wife's face, and she told us that, we were going to have a son, but she never said he was healthy. So she led us into a room. We waited for my wife's OBGYN for maybe 15 minutes, but it felt a lot longer than that. And when the OBGYN came in, she told us that the techs were having trouble finding part of our son's brain, known as the cerebellum. They weren't really sure what was wrong with him, but they were going to send us to a maternal fetal specialist the following day. They had to tell us exactly what the problem was. And the following day, that maternal fetal specialist told us our child had been diagnosed with a birth defect called spina bifida. And if your guests don't know what spina bifida is, or your listeners, don't know what spina bifida is, I can kind of explain it. It's a neural tube defect. That's what your spinal cord is called in utero. It literally means open spine. There are different types of spina bifida with different degrees of severity. And our son was diagnosed with the most severe form of spina bifida, called spina bifida manifesta. And it's when the meninges of the spinal cord and the spinal cord itself, they protrude out into the opening in the child's back that hasn't formed properly in development in utero. And they float out into the amniotic fluid, and it kind of pulls the child's brain back because your neural tube's connected to your brain, and it puts water in the top of their head. And that's why they couldn't see part of the cerebellum in the original ultrasound, and it created a condition known as hydrocephalus. So our son was diagnosed with that birth defect, spina bifida.
Wow. And first of all, there's a part of me that's very sorry because I imagine as a couple that must have been incredibly scary. And after you get that news, you start to research what's to come. And we're talking today about doubting decisions. And this was a big decision. I mean, all options were on the table. Abort the baby, keep the baby. And how did you process that decision?
Well, basically, the maternal fetal specialist gave us some information about it because despite the fact that my wife worked in the neonatal unit, there were no neurosurgeons on staff at our hospital. And those are the kinds of physicians that have to be present at least 72 hours after the birth of a child with this type of condition to provide the care that they need. So we sat down that night with the information. My wife was crying. She was reading about it because 80% of the people that get the diagnosis we did choose abortion. 75% of people that get a child with this severe of a birth defect, the child will cause a unexplainable miscarriage in the mother prior to 20 weeks. And as we read on that night, we discovered that should the child survive the 40-week gestation of pregnancy, that within 24 to 72 hours after birth, he would need major surgery on his spinal cord and on his brain. And even if those surgeries were completely successful, we were told he would never walk. He would be severely mentally disabled, and he would have numerous health problems throughout his life. And my wife was kind of crying across the room from me reading this out loud. And, she said, "I'm going to hell." I said, "Ashley, what are you talking about?" She's like, "I'm actually thinking about aborting this baby." And, it really wasn't me in that moment. It was something bigger than me in that moment that kind of grabbed her and said, "Hey, this is not my fault. This is not your fault. I believe God sent us this child for a reason. We got to trust in him the way our oldest son trusts in us." And, I was making a reference to gospel passages where Jesus is kind of preaching to crowds, and he talks to them about how the kingdom of heaven belongs to little children. And he just wants us adults to be as trustworthy and dependent on God as a small child is on his parent. But, when you're in that situation, like you said, facing the fear of the unknown, that'll really test your faith beyond the realm of description. But I think a tragedy is that a lot of those decisions are made out of fear. And,
Yes.
Fear is the opposite of love. And it really was a true decision in love that my wife and I made to keep our son. And it's a love that wills the good of other as other over oneself.
Now,
And
Chad,
we've
I'm
learned
just
that
curious.
lesson in many, many ways throughout that pregnancy and since the birth of our child and 9 years now into his life.
Right. Now, I'm just curious, Chad, in this processing, obviously there's the couple, the two of you talking this out, crying together, making this decision, standing close to your faith. But were there people along the way that tried to talk you out of it? Did you find that more people were supportive of you keeping the baby, or were there more people trying to lead you the other way?
I didn't have a single person that deterred us from the decision we made. I taught in a Catholic high school at the time. I've written 3 books, Waiting for Eli, A Father's Journey from Fear to Faith, Eli's Reach on the Value of Human Life and the Power of Prayer, and Growing with Eli, Our Journey into Life and Light. And it's kind of chronicled that journey. And even the doctor, the OBGYN who told us about the fact that the technicians couldn't find the cerebellum, said, "Look, nobody knows the outcome of this baby's life but God. Just, go home and start praying." And that's what we did. And, I was very fortunate in this situation. In the part of the country I live in, we're over 90% Catholic. So we had a lot of support in the decision.
Well, that is important. It takes a village sometimes to raise a child. And in this case, you really needed that village to stand by you. So, Chad, I'd like you to stay with us because your story continues to unfold. And today we are talking about doubting our decisions. How do we know when to just say, "I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do it"? That's what we're talking about. I am Nancy Solari. This is the Living Full Out Show. We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari.
There are many sounds in your day-to-day life. There are sounds that wake you up. Sounds that make you smile. Sounds that energize you. And sounds that help you relax. But there are some sounds that can alert you to danger and can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you information about severe weather events, Amber Alerts, or other emergencies in your area. With critical information from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know, wherever you are. For more information, visit ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey, but people in this town call me Maniac. They call me that because I'm the fastest runner in town. But just because everyone knows who I am doesn't mean I belong. I don't really belong anywhere. You see, I'm an orphan and I wander the streets just looking for a place that I can truly call home. My name is Maniac McGee and I'm all alone. Explore new worlds. Read my story in the novel Maniac McGee by Jerry Spinelli. For other great book ideas, visit your local library or log on to literacy.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Look for the bare necessities.
The bare necessities of healthy living are easier than you think.
You better believe it.
And the food pyramid shows you the way with just the right amount of exercise and the necessary grains, vegetables, fruits, milk, and meats and beans.
Just the bare necessities of life.
So eat right, be active, and have fun.
Yeah, man.
For your own path to a healthier you, visit mypyramid.gov.
This is really living.
This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and the Ad Council.
Hi, my name is Nancy Solari, host of the Living Full Out Show. I am excited to let you know that we are now associated with Alexa. If you have Alexa in your house and you didn't know that, go ahead and find Living Full Out because you can hear us anytime you want, and we're there for you to keep you motivated. Go to your app store because we're located there as well. Just look for the Living Full Out radio show. It's important to us that we put out really inspiring programming, but we want to make sure that you have it at your fingertips when you need us most. We never know when those challenges are going to come, when we're going to feel lonely and need that motivation. So just know that when you need us, we're here for you. Check out Alexa, the app stores, or go to livingfullout.com. Here's to you living full out.
What if I could tell you that a full-blown wildfire was going to occur tomorrow right where you live? Tell you exactly which neighborhoods it would engulf and how fast it would do it. The first thing you would do is talk with your loved ones and make a plan today. It's true, I can't tell you a wildfire will strike tomorrow, but shouldn't you make a plan anyway? Go to ready.gov/communicate and make your emergency plan today. Don't wait. Communicate. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a life coach, Nancy can teach you how to stay strong under pressure and work through challenges you face. Being legally blind, Nancy inspires others to be resilient in overcoming obstacles and live full out. You can ask Nancy for advice in your life on relationships, finance, business, health, and more. Just call in at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. Now, here's Nancy.
Thank you for joining us today. My name is Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're talking about doubting our decisions and how we confidently step out there and execute a plan and feel good about that and follow through. Now, our inspirational guest today, Chad Giudice, I selected him for this show because he had to make some very big decisions when he found out that his son was diagnosed with having a birth defect called symbiosis. And the thing is that it's important that as you hear Chad's story, for him, this was a big decision. But for all of us, we all have decisions we have to make. And it's really looking at the people around us, the support that we can gain, getting educated, whatever you need to take that leap of faith. So I'd very much like to welcome Chad back to the show.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks.
Hi. I know that the days are hard and long. There's joys. But your day is really stressful, and you have to give a lot of yourself to Eli to really get him from morning to night. Can you just give us a quick 1-2 minute of your day and kind of what you do?
Sure. Well, just for the listeners to know, my son's 9 years old now, so I've been doing this for with my wife and my in-laws and my parents and some personal care providers now that we have aid from the state of Louisiana that I live in. But basically to get him up in the morning, got to get him up in the morning, got to get him dressed. About 90% of what you and I do every day on our own, he needs help doing. That doesn't mean he's not cognitive or aware or conscious or can't have a conversation or fully intelligible. He really is. He's in third grade and goes to school. I'm just talking about physical things that you and I do for ourselves and maybe take for granted, but we don't really think about doing every day. He needs help doing. He has to have medication at certain times of the day. So I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go to the gym. I get home. My wife's getting out of bed. I'm getting him up, getting him dressed for school. I'm the primary caregiver for that part of the day. We get him fed. After he's done eating, we get him some medication, get him on the bus. He has an aide at school all day long. He has to be catheterized 5 times a day, every couple hours, depending on how much he drinks or doesn't drink. Anytime he needs to go to the restroom, he can get himself in and out of his wheelchair, but it's not like what you're thinking. He really does need help doing that too, because the place on his back and his spinal cord where he has his lesion, he doesn't have any. He's a paraplegic. He has no real feeling from his waist down. And even in his abdominal area where you and I would use those abdominal muscles to kind of like just sturdy ourselves and balance ourselves, you really can't do that. So his chair is real supportive and it's heavy and it's kind of cumbersome to get in and out of, so he needs help with that. In the evening when he gets home and I get home from work, he weighs 82 pounds now. So the only person that's really strong enough to kind of move him around without hurting themselves is me. So I pick him up and put him in the shower and I bathe him and I bring him in his room and get him dressed. But it's really, it's hard, but one thing it's taught me is to be very keenly aware of other people's difficulties. When my life was easy before I had my son, I say easy, it was pretty convenient. And I just say that, he's not inconvenienced by his difficulties. I have been inconvenienced by them, but that inconvenience in my life has taught me how to be selfless and taught me a love that defies logic and one that I would not have known and no one else in our family would have known had we not had him.
I love that. And thank you for walking us through your day, because I think it gives us a really good glimpse as to, what the hurdles that you do go through throughout the day. And
sure. On
a personal note for me, as and my audience knows, I'm legally blind, and I know people don't mean it, but sometimes they will say, I can't see. Boy, without my contacts on, I'm sure I see as bad as you do. And that always makes me scratch my head, because I think, they don't really know what blind is like unless you're blind.
Correct.
Now, I'm sure you go through experiences too when people might say something and they don't mean to say it the wrong way, but have you ever encountered where somebody says something like, I've had the longest day ever? And how do you look at them and still stay so humble and address their valid concern in their world, yet all that you go through?
I've been a teacher for 17 years. I just got out of education. I work for the Diocese of Lafayette now and for the bishop there. But for 17 years, I was a teacher, so I always saw things as a teaching moment. And sometimes it's a teaching moment. And for instance, I've spoken to many people who don't have children with special needs. And I have spoken with and been in support groups with children, parents of children who do have special needs. And sometimes people that work with special needs kids for a long time, God bless them, and I so appreciative of what they do for our kids. When we're not around and they want to dedicate their life to doing that, I think it's beautiful and it's special. But one time, I was speaking with one of them, and I think, just they made an assumption that because they've been working with special needs kids for however long, they knew what it was like to have a special needs child. And I just kind of stopped for a second. I looked at them. I said, so can I just ask you a question? And they were like, sure. I said, well, let me ask you this. If you were the person at a hospital, like at St. Jude's Hospital, and you were administering chemotherapy to a child who had fighting cancer for 10 years, and you had a healthy child at home, would you walk up to their parents and tell them that because you've been administering chemotherapy to children with cancer, you know what it's like to have a child with cancer?
What did that person do?
Well, at first they were kind of taken back for a moment, and then actually after processing what I just said, they kind of thanked me because it gave them a perspective. I think most of the time, part of our problem and our humanity is, especially in the world we live in today, where we have instantaneous feedback from, technology and all the things that we have access to, we don't really listen to people. We just kind of hear what they're saying, and we're already processing how we're going to respond. And one of the things my son has taught me is how to be aware of what other people are dealing with and really listening to them, because not a lot of people do that. And he's
Wow.
also taught me that you don't know what it's like to walk in somebody else's shoes until you walk a mile in them. And everybody is fighting a battle within them that you and I really know nothing about and really don't understand. And really, sometimes all they want to be is heard and acknowledged, and they want to be told, you know what, that's difficult, and I acknowledge that difficulty. And, I don't have to make a comparison to what I'm going through, what you're going through, but just to understand that they just want to be heard and to realize that you may not have any idea what that's like. I guess the best analogy I could use for people in your audience would be, we talk about mental illness. When you see people who are mentally ill on the outside, look like everything is fine, you wouldn't even know. But if you could get a front row seat to the battle that was going on inside of each one of them every day, I think you'd have a whole different take on who they are and what their life is really like.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And it is about being a good listener and being more of a listener than a talker, really. And
yes.
I also wanted to ask you, Chad, because, you've really gone through it. Again, the highs and the lows. Have you ever struggled with the why me question?
No, I have not. And I'll just tell you why I haven't, because why not me? God gave his only son for me, I have asked myself another question, though.
What's that question?
Why did this have to happen in my life for me to see the blessings in it? A beautiful wife and a healthy child. Before my second son was born, after Ephraim, my older boy, was born, my wife used to tell me all the time, she's like, you're clueless. You have no idea how many things have to go right medically and biologically in a 9-month pregnancy for a child to be born normal or healthy. And, she was right. I was clueless, and I took it for granted. And every day now that I have to deal with everything that I have to deal with, I don't take it for granted anymore. Makes me look at my life and say, what can I be grateful for today? Not what do I have to complain about today?
Yeah, I love that. And I want everybody listening today to really take that to heart, because we're all going to have challenges, right? We're all going to have those unknowns that come into our world, the things that are unexpected and we have to kind of manage or deal with. But I think it's beautiful the way that you illustrated that, what can we learn from the experience, and why not us? I think that's great. And how, I know you went on to have a third child, and that child is healthy, but how did you manage your fear? Because I imagine getting pregnant a third time, there was the idea of what if this child has a special needs as well?
Sure. That's a reality for a lot of people that have children with a genetic issue. We were, concerned once my wife got pregnant for the third time, but I didn't want that to rob us of the joy of expecting a new child. And once again, I'm going to go back to, Jesus Christ is the center of my life. I have faith, and it's not a faith on the, in a naive way. It's faith on the far side of reason. And, I just believe that if the child was sent, that he had a purpose, he or she had a purpose, and that we had to trust in that. And the months leading up to the ultrasound were difficult, but I had a lot of things going on in my personal life at school and with my personal. I'm a public speaker. I've been to like 17 states and spoken to over 100 audiences and shared this story over the last 10 years. And I was in the midst of trying to make a career change, possibly doing that full time or stay teaching. And my wife got pregnant, so there was a lot of things going on in our life. And I don't want to say it was a distraction, but there were enough things that I couldn't just stay focused on that all the time. And if we would have been, once again, we've been paralyzed by fear. But 1 John 4:18 says, "Perfect love casts out fear." So when our love is being perfected, you really can focus on that and not focus on being afraid, because ultimately we'd already done it once. If it happened again, we would do it again. And we could do it again, and we knew we could do it because we'd already done it once.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because today we're talking about, doubting our decisions, and you had every reason in the world to doubt that third pregnancy, but you do just have to take that leap of faith and know that it's going to be okay. However it lands, It's going to be okay. And I want to thank you so much, Chad, for being on the show today and opening our eyes wider, letting us listen more clearly, because I really think we can all be that support for somebody else. So thank you so much for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me, and I hope everybody checks out my website, www.chadjudice.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Chad. Have a great day. And for everybody listening, I love everything that he said. I mean, honestly, he has obviously a son with special needs, but honestly, we all have our own special needs. I mean, I'm legally blind. Somebody else might have social anxiety, or maybe we're stuck due to breakups or addictions, or there could be any number of things that we could lean on. And then sometimes leaning on that can be an excuse, it could be a crutch, it could be anything. But you want to get past that. You want to throw that away and say, this does not have to define me. Just because his son had that birth defect, it didn't define Eli's ability to bring that family joy, to go on and be a thriving 9-year-old today. So it's really about figuring out, what are you leaning on? What excuses, what labels have you given yourself? What doubts are swirling around in your mind that you can just get rid of today, here and now, so you can live your life full out? We'll be taking your calls in the next segment, so think about, what do you want to release so you can live full out in a big way? We'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
Well, Jason, I've got to tell you, you're pretty much everything this company is looking for in an entry-level candidate.
Great.
Your resume isn't quite what we're used to, but you've got a fantastic work ethic.
Thank you.
And I'm impressed by how you carry yourself.
So, should we talk about the job?
What? The job? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have no way of recruiting or even meeting you. This interview didn't happen.
It may sound ridiculous, and that's because it kind of is. There's a huge pool of talent your company is missing out on. Meet the grads of life. Who are they? Talent worth knowing about. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
Man, we really could have used him.
Don't miss out on a resource many innovative companies have already discovered. Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
The following message is about Medicaid and CHIP, free or low-cost health coverage for kids and teens. Enrollment is open year-round.
Hey, voice lady, give me the mic.
Okay.
Hey, DJ, let's switch up the music. That's better. So listen up, moms and dads out there. There are these programs called Medicaid and CHIP. They offer free or low-cost health coverage for kids. Things like doctor and dentist visits, prescriptions, and shots are covered. All the stuff that keeps kids like me healthy and in charge.
So, as you can tell, a covered kid is a confident kid. And it means confident parents, too. To learn more about affordable health coverage for your family, visit healthcare.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. That's 1-877-543-7669.
Yep, you could do something big for your family today because enrollment is open year-round.
This has been a message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
And Sophia.
They're gonna jump out of trees. You can't stop them. They'll go down the slide head first. They'll make parachutes out of sheets. They'll balance on things that are impossible to balance on, like the back of a couch or a windowsill or a scooter seat. They'll run with sharp objects. They'll run into walls. They'll climb things that won't hold their weight. They'll put their fingers in places where they could get smashed. They'll drive their tricycles down steep hills. They'll bounce balls off their faces. They'll step on each other. They'll jump on each other. They'll invent whole new ways to put themselves in jeopardy. But one of the most dangerous things kids will do happens while they're sitting perfectly still. Kids who ride in a car without a booster seat are much more likely to suffer serious or fatal injury during a crash than kids in boosters. But amazingly, 80% of all kids who need them aren't in them. After a toddler seat and until they're 4'9", booster kids, and don't let them down.
Go to boosterseat.gov to learn more about the importance of boosters. A message from the U.S. Department of Transportation and the Ad Council.
Have you ever lost a cat? And have you ever wanted to get your cat back after you lost it? I'm Andrew Hoffman. I invented the Lost Cat Magnet. Just turn it on and lost cats stick to it. Just listen to one satisfied cat. That's proof. You should invent stuff too. But remember, don't do a Lost Cat Magnet.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your own inventions or just play some games at inventnow.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, the National Inventors Hall of Fame Foundation, and the Ad Council.
We're your pets, and this song's dedicated to those people who don't have health insurance yet. Enroll, we say. We want you to be okay. Enroll, we say. Take care, people, for goodness sake.
Health insurance is now affordable and covers prescriptions, hospitalizations, and preventive care. Visit getcoveredamerica.org to learn more.
And take care, people.
Brought to you by Get Covered America and the Ad Council.
When you're doubting your decisions, you want to make sure that you isolate that fear. Remember, fear stands for false evidence appearing real. You want to say to yourself, this is not real. I can make a decision for myself. I have control over my destiny. When you do that, when you have a leap of faith and you trust yourself and your instincts, you will be living full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. Nancy is here as a guide to show you how to rise above obstacles and savor each moment. If you have a question, call in live at 800-333-0001. That's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Welcome back to the show. My name is Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we've been talking about doubting our decisions, and that's a really tough place to be. I want us all to really honor that time where we're concerned, we're anxious. I mean, those are real emotions. But at the same time, you do have to trust yourself. Know that if you make a decision and it's not the right one, well, you know what? Learn what you can from it. It's okay to make a mistake and fail. We all do. I've done it tons of times. But at the same time, if you make a decision and it's the right one, or if you make a decision and it opens doors that are unexpected, then that's winning at the same time. So you're not going to know unless you try. So I'm going to go to the lines now. We're getting word from our producer that we have a caller on the line. We're going to say hello to let them. Hi, welcome to Living Full Out Show.
Hi, Nancy. So my question is, I am planning on moving in with some friends, but the catch is that they're dating, and they're also my really close friends, so I don't want to burn any bridges. And my boyfriend is also thinking about moving in with us.
So you're going to move in with your good friends, and they're a couple, and obviously you're a couple. Mm-hmm. So do you think that is the space big enough for 4 people? Do you think it'll be harmonious, or what issues do you anticipate that might happen?
Well, I know that my friends have a problem with fighting a lot, physical fighting, not towards each other, but I've seen their bathroom door. And my boyfriend is best friends with the guy, and I'm best friends with the girl. So there's kind of a split, but the house is definitely big.
Let me ask you a question. You have choices, right? That's the good news, right? So ultimately, you have to decide whether or not that environment is going to be fruitful and positive for your relationship, or if it might be toxic. So I'm hearing a couple different things. I'm not saying that you shouldn't move in together, but it does sound like there is a lot of tension in that environment. And we don't know where that tension is coming from. Again, they're not fighting each other, this couple, but they obviously are upset with areas of their life. And it could just be one thing that you do, one thing that your boyfriend does that could set them off. Maybe they had all this space and now they don't have that space. Maybe you guys start to do different habits that they're not used to. It's really hard to say how that's going to go. The other thing is, I think it's great that everybody is friends, but there also could be a he said, she said battleground going on at some point. And you just want to question whether or not this is really the best environment for your relationship. How long have you been dating?
Almost a year.
Almost a year.
Not very long.
So it's not very long, still pretty new. I would just really think about it a little further, okay? And I'm not discouraging you. There's so many elements here. I mean, even the fact that you and your boyfriend are newly dating, what if something happens there? Now you all live together, right? So I want you to step back and maybe take some time today or tomorrow, and I want you to journal. And I want you to flesh out all the positives about this move. And I also want you to put down on paper all the fears that you might have. And don't try to make them be equal. Like some people will say, do a pros and cons list. But when you do a pros and cons list, they always come out equal. Don't do that. Okay? I want you to free flow and journal and just put every possible idea out there. And then I want you to close that journal and I want you to walk away. And then I want you to read it 2 days later with a fresh pair of eyes. And if you cry, if you're angry, if you're nervous, all those emotions, put them in what you're writing. When you come back later, 2 days later, and you have this new perspective, I want you to pretend like you were coaching yourself. And when you read what you wrote, would you tell yourself to make that move or maybe make a different decision? It's important to remember that we can be our best advocate. We can be our own life coach. But sometimes it's hard to do that when we're in our mind. That's why I'm suggesting just take it and write down every thought, every concern, every joy, but have it be two separate things that you're writing. Don't blend them together. One is all peaceful and joyful and excited, and one is all the fears and what could be and the what ifs. Can you try that?
Yeah, I think I could apply that to a lot of things too.
Yeah, you can do it for school and work and you name it. But I have a feeling that if you do that exercise for this particular possible move, it's going to give you a lot of insight. And remember, when you do this, when you go back 2 days later, put on your coaching hat. But I believe in you. You can do this. Okay? But thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you for your answer.
You're welcome. Thank you, and have a great day. And for everybody listening today, it is about assessing, why do we doubt? Why do we have concerns? What is that fear? Is it real? Or can we modify the way we think so that we can look at things with a more clear view? And if you need help, reach out to us at livingfullout.com. Just check us out there. This episode you can hear again. Check us out on Alexa, the app stores, you name it. Most of all, here's to you living full out. See you next.
Thank you for listening to the Living Full Out Show with Nancy Solari. To learn more about this program, visit livingfullout.com for the latest episodes. Connect with the Living Full Out community by following us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. If you have an inspirational story you want to share, email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Here's to you, living full out.